Cool. How's it, Dave? How's it going?
No, it's all right. And you?
Cool, man. Dan, what's happening, brother?
Good in you. How's it, Dave? How's it?
How's it, Dan? How you doing, man?
Did you watch the rugby on Saturday, Dave?
I didn't even know there was rugby this time.
Well, I've got news for you. I didn't watch either, so.
No, it was hell. I watched it. It was awful. Like, we watched the
See?
Lions painfully lose, like, narrowly to the Stormers. So
What
Cape
was
Town
the score?
sucks. Jeez, I can't remember. I think it was by 2 points.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think the Berman jinx, I'm going to call it. So Mark and Jenna, his daughter, every time they go to games, we always lose. Springboks, Lions, everything.
Oh,
We
no.
should get them to
Ban
stop going.
Well, let's hope next time, man. Next time we watch on TV.
Yeah, they should stay at home, man. They should stay at home.
But yeah, guys, if you have just joined us, this is a coffee chat with Dan and Dave and myself, where it's all about property. So if you are new, let us know. Let us know where you are. What are you investing in here in South Africa? We do have a special guest today, Jonathan, who's from Cape Town. He's been investing for a number of years, and we're going to be chatting to Jonathan about his journey as a Cape Townian, investing in property. What does he do now? Where is he going? What's going on? So just remember, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. And please take a friend. And if you know anyone right now that you can think is interested in property or has a few questions, tag them in now. Because what we will do in a minute, we will run through what's happening this week, what's happening next week. We are in the middle of the Sapin Roadshow. So we've already been to Bloemfontein, which is awesome, hey Dan?
Yeah, amazing. It's super amazing just seeing like the different cultures and different ways of investing in different cities. Amazing.
And even the appetite for the banks are different in Bloem. That's what we picked up, hey?
Yeah, man.
The bylaws for student accommodation in Bloem are open. And then, of course, in Durban last week. Durban's is cool. Durban's like a weird place. The people in Durban are different.
Yeah, I love Durban. Like Andrew said, mix different people. I mean, the different teams, just seeing how creative. I think Durban has my favorite set of teams in different industries. I'd say different companies, Absa, Tough, and they were just amazing.
They were. So the next one will be Cape Town, which is not this week, but next week. We'll chat about that just now. So I think, Dave, let's maybe shoot straight into it and see what's happening this week.
Yeah, 100%. So this week's nice and easy. We've got Coaching the Legal Sport webinar. That's Thursday night. So for anyone who's on, blanking a little, anyone who's on their fundamentals, flipping course, Airbnb course, any of those, or if you're a member in terms of like professional member, you'll have access to the Coaching the Legal Sport. So that's Thursday, starts at 6 o'clock. It usually runs about an hour. If you've got any questions around property, it's a really good opportunity to send those questions through to Drew and myself, and we can get them answered. And if we're too stupid, then we'll get the attorneys to answer. A little further afield, we've got Cape Town's having an event. That's November 9th. Cape Town will be hosting their networking event. It's over here. It's going to be over here in Woodstock. It's going to be really fun and easy. Looking forward to it. Drew, you're actually coming down to Cape Town.
Yo, how cool is that? And Dan.
And Dan. Look at you go. Slum it in here where we've got electricity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get some power. It's quite funny actually saying that, David. The South Africa event last week.
Oh my goodness.
We started at 6:30. We were in darkness. We were standing in the parking lots in Durban, South Africa. About 7:10, the last came on. But I was like, what we're going to do? There's no electricity. Do we speak in the dark? And thank God the lights came back on at 7:10. So that was the case. So now a lesson learned. Make sure that there's no load shedding on out of the events.
Yeah, and I see Bruce Lee is here. Bruce Lee absolutely killed it. He was nervous before the event.
Yeah, but Bruce, you were great. So Bruce Lee joined us at the South African Durban last week at Belito, talking on how is he, doing Airbnb, which of course is through the Robin Booth course. So Bruce Lee, thanks for coming out to Durban. You were great. Dakar, don't worry, we'll answer your question today about how to get started in property. And yes, Dave, coming back to your point. So next week, myself and Dan will be in Cape Town, and Wednesday night we're going to a venue in Woodstock, I believe, and we're going to be inviting all our partners, business partners. We'll be chatting us about the different funds for property investors and how do you access them. But of course, we'll have Absa Bank and Tough and all our partners and investors in the room. So it's going to be a super event in Cape Town. If you are living in Cape Town right now, let us know in the chat, in the comments box, who here is in Cape Town. make sure that you do come see us next week, Wednesday, the 9th of November. And then, of course, the week afterwards, we'll be at Port Elizabeth. We'll chat about that next week. So that's it, Dave. It's Wednesday morning Pretoria breakfast. So if you are in the Gauteng area or Pretoria area, the 2nd of November, it's this Wednesday morning in Menlyn. It's only a small coffee shop, so if you do want to join us, it's all about property again. We'll be going around the room. What are your challenges? Where are you going? What do you need? And we are going to support you. Myself, Dan, some of the property coaches will be there just to help you move forwards. A very informal breakfast. So if you are in the Gauteng area, let us know. And make sure you go to our website to book your seat. Dave will pop the link in for you. And then Thursday night group coaching in the evening, and then next Wednesday is Cape Town. But yeah, I think what I want to do, well, before we bring on Jon, who's with us, I can see Cashley's with us, which is great. Dakar, Bruce, good to see you. Zandile, good day. I'm Zandy, a new member, great. Looking forward to learning, grow you in the right place. Cool, Gordon. So we'll see you next week. If you're out there in Cape Town, it's brilliant. And we'll let you know what the vision is for next year as well, which would be great. But I think, Dave, let's bring on Jon, eh?
Yeah, there we go. How's it, Jon?
Hey guys,
Jon.
how's it going? It's really cool to be here today. Thank you so much for having me on board today.
It's a pleasure, man. It's always good to have you on. I think I met you, Jon, for the first time last year, right? And you came through the Investor of the Year. What category were you in?
It was the most growth investor.
Okay, so we are going to chat about that. Yeah, it's awesome, man. And Jon, how old are you?
I'm 32.
32. Okay, fantastic. Let's maybe rewind the clock a bit, eh? Why are you laughing?
Definitely. No, I was just about to say.
He's old.
Yeah. Jon, did Dave coach you?
Yeah, Dave is absolutely our coach for both Akashi and myself.
Geez, that's so weird, eh? Like, I mean, you expect Dave's students to be boring just because of like Dave, but
yes,
no
he
offense,
did, Dave.
I'm just gonna. How's it, Jon? we don't need them and their sarcasm. Joburg and Joe.
Yeah, he's got us tuned there. But he's getting cocky in his old age, eh, Dave?
Yeah. I'll bring him down a peg when he comes to Cape Town.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be sleeping on the floor. But I think what we'd be lucky to find out is, where did it all start for you, hey, Jon? Like, why did you get into property? Were you always been in property? Were you corporate? What's your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing is, when we got started, it was literally straight out of university. Got my first job. It was at a consulting firm, super exciting. And then we actually bought a very small studio apartment. And that was close to the office, allowed us good flexibility, mobility. And then we saw, well, gee, this is pretty good, right? We've got our own little place and everything. And it was a little bit later when the opportunity to move to Cape Town came up for, again, a corporate for a corporate gig. And then instead of selling the place, we said, well, let's rent it out and see how this goes. And 8 years later, 8 properties later, we've built a portfolio that's in a bunch of different cities, 5 different cities here in South Africa. And it's a fully buy-to-let portfolio. We've got some residential, larger student accommodations, even commercial property. So it kind of started out very humbly with just like, okay, let's get a little student studio apartment together. And then it grew into that. But I think what really kind of kicked things off is, we were getting a property pretty much year on year after that. Every year we were getting a property. But then when we met you, Andrew, and we saw yourself, we saw Dave McGlashan through that Investor of the Year, and we started watching these coffee chats, the very coffee chat that I'm on now. We started watching these, and we started taking a look at, what are people doing with property? And we were listening to a lot of the stuff that Dave was actually saying in terms of things to think about, things that you can do, like what are kinds of strategies. And I remember my wife said to me, sure, this guy, Dave McGlashan, he's the guy, right? She actually stopped me and she said those words, he's the guy. And then that kind of started our engagement. We signed up for Investor of the Year, and then we just started getting more involved with Sapin. We took a couple courses, we were attending these coffee chats, we were attending events, and we got coaching, which was actually a huge milestone for us, because that helped us take our investing from kind of ordinary investing now to much more professional investing. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, that's kind of the origin story.
Yeah, definitely. And tell me there, John, you said 5 cities. Why 5 cities? Did you just get the opportunity of these deals that got sent to you? Or like, why 5 and not all in Cape Town?
So with 2 of the cities, Johannesburg and Cape Town, because we were living there, those made sense. But
Yeah.
there was a fantastic deal out in Stellenbosch, for example, which is a really, really difficult market to get into. It's that kind of dominant student market. And my wife found a fantastic opportunity. She negotiated it, she structured the deal, and we got in there into Stellenbosch. And then likewise, same thing in Centurion under Pretoria, and with our commercial property out in Paarl as well. So there were just really, really good deals in these locations that really made sense. There were strong deals, so we went for those. As opposed to ring fencing just to Joburg or just to Cape Town, we were always looking at where's the best potential.
Geez, that's so awesome, John. Well done, first of all, to you and Akashni. We've been following your story for quite a while. Huge fan of all the work you guys are doing. Talk to me about the deals. A lot of people that do come through, they would like to ideally invest in a property that they can physically walk to, that is close by in case there are problems. You said you invested in 5 different cities. I've got 2 questions for you. You mentioned one of the deals is a commercial deal, right? What are the others, and what are some of the risks, or you'd call it, for people looking to invest in different places across South Africa? Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And just before I get into that, that's so cool that you're saying that you're following our story, because you know that we are following your story, Daniel. You are a major inspiration. So sorry, before I answer the question, I just wanted to say you are an absolute inspiration.
Thank you.
Okay, so starting with the first question. So commercial property, that's out in Paarl, and that was very much about, it's just the opportunity was great. It's a different kind of class. So, there's residential and it's commercial, industrial, and that was just a great way for us to get into commercial in a very kind of easy kind of space. And it just works. The numbers are really, really strong out in that Paarl deal. But in terms of the portfolio, how it's looking, so we've got 1 commercial property. The rest are residential, but then we've got 3 student accommodations, and they vary in size. So as our journey kind of went on in time, the size of our properties also got bigger. So for example, we've got 1 student accommodation in Goodwood, here in Cape Town, which has 13 students in it. And we're in the process of getting another one that we're going to make just purely for medical students, and that will have 7 to 9 when renovation is done. So it's 3 student accommodations. We've got 7 kind of overall in terms of, like, if you're just looking like residential, like buy to let as the model, but then 1 commercial. So that's the split.
Okay, brilliant. Now, John, tell me, looking back, has it been about 8 years since you bought your first property, plus minus?
Yeah.
Is there anything you would do different looking back at what you know now? Anything? What were the basic mistakes that you made that, for example, Dakar that's on your, he's brand new to investing. What would you do different?
Okay, so that is such a critical question. And it's like, for me, there's definitely like a major thing that I would do differently. So, when most people are investing in property, they've got this idea that you've got to wait 20 years or whatever before it becomes profitable. They've got this, it's this long-term game, right? You've got to be making a loss for a really long time before you become profitable. That's something I hear a lot. And a lot of people are scared about it. But then for me, had I found a network like this, Sapin, and this is the big thing, it would actually be, don't do things on your own. So we were doing stuff on our own, but had we known about, for example, the Sapin network earlier, that would have been a game changer for us. We've already got a lovely portfolio that's functioning really well. It's performing good from a numbers perspective, but that could have been just so much faster and accelerated so much quicker had we known about a network like this. And the key thing there for me is the education aspect and coaching. Once we got that coaching, so Dave McGlashan over here, he's our property coach. Once we started getting that coaching and seeing, how do you structure the deal properly? How do you do numbers? How do you, it's not like the normal, You see a property that someone's developed, you buy it, and then you rent it out and you see what happens. That is not the way to do it. So if that's the kind of investing, you've really, to you guys on the chat, if you're investing like that, where there isn't a plan, there isn't a structure, then you really should consider looking at kind of the property academy courses. You really should consider chatting to the coaches in the network, getting that coaching, getting that backup. That for me, if I could have gotten coaching sooner, that would be the one thing I'd do differently.
Definitely, John, and it makes sense because you don't know what you don't know. So often people get into property with the limited knowledge, and they get into it, and sometimes they make money, sometimes they don't. But that's the common answer we get, is they wish they were part of a network at the beginning of the journey, but it's never too late, right?
That's it.
Now, before we ask you about where you're going, before we ask you about Investor of the Year, Dave, let's just see who's with us. And remember, please ask any questions to John or myself or Dave or Dan. Now's the time to ask. Do we have any newbies, Dave?
Yeah, 100%. We've got quite a lot of YouTube guys, which is always good to see. But we got Kerry Lee here, who's fairly often. Good to have Kerry Lee back. Nico deploys online from the brokerage. Daka's joined from YouTube. Daka, we will answer your question in a bit. We'll pitch that to John and see what he thinks. Zadele also joining from YouTube. So great. Bruce Lee, like we mentioned, is on. Eric Boyce is on. Yeah, nice, good new people. Not a lot of questions. So guys, if you do have some questions for Andrew, myself, Dan, John, feel free to get those through now, and we can definitely make sure we answer your questions.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. And John, before I go into the next 8 years, what would you say the biggest mistake that you guys have made in your property journey when it comes to actual property itself?
The biggest mistake for me would be not having our power team and network built before we got started. So the power that you get from having that power team, and it's literally, it can be your coach over here, it can be your attorneys, your accountants, your handyman, your construction guys, your analysis partner. So all of the different aspects that empower you as an investor or as an entrepreneur, you need to have those things available. For us, our biggest mistake was we were launching forward into things and we didn't have those in place. Everything still worked out wonderfully and we're able to build our systems as we went along, but we could have just been so much further ahead had we actually started with a good power team in place with all of the right capabilities to support what we wanted to do in that investing.
Absolutely. So it's just getting the right structure and the power team. Dave, anything from your side on that?
I mean, I want to disagree with John.
Okay,
one of the things I liked about coaching John and Akashni is you guys had run with it, and there's a fine line to balance over there, and I think we've spoken a lot about that. But there's also a lot of value in just going forward, getting started, and doing your first few deals, and then bringing the stuff up. So there's definitely a point where you need to think about, how do I get the systems and structures in place in a way that's going to help me and a way that's going to help me grow the business. Whereas a lot of people can get very stuck in, I need to have all the things perfect. I need to have the systems perfect. I need to know the perfect people. I need to have the perfect calculator, the perfect spreadsheets. And they fixate on all the little admin tasks and they don't actually get out there and do deals. So if you're hearing this and you're an analytical person like me, be careful of John's advice, because there's also you need to put the gas on. And sitting with John and Akashni, I spoke to him about this, and John's the go guy, and Akashni's like, no, let's do the math, let's balance it out. And that's the balance you need as a property investor. You need to look at it and say, yes, we need to be aggressive and make the decisions and throw some caution to the wind. And then there's also times where we need to nail down and focus and build our systems in place. So there's some good balance that we need to find. And John, I think we started at the right time of, okay, cool, it's time to formalize, put a system in place, and try to build a organized business. So just good.
No, definitely, yeah. And I think, Dave, it's always that balance, of just getting started and buying 20 properties in the wrong entity versus not doing anything at all. How do you just get started? And sometimes you learn as you go along, right? And you build a team as you go along. But I'm seeing a few questions here that perhaps John can answer, from Eric about houses versus townhouses. Which property management company do you use? Edgar. So maybe, Dave, let's start hitting some of those questions.
Cool. I think let's start with Daka. He came in first. So Daka's question is, he's always wanted to be in property, but he doesn't know where to start. So as a starter investor, John, do you have any advice? And then Drew and I can take a stab.
Yeah, I would say, just based on my own experience, the best way to get started would be leverage this network right here. So you're already, you're already around, you're looking at the players in SAPN, in the property network. There's fantastic resources at your fingertips. That's the great thing about this. That's why I was saying that I wish that I'd actually joined up with these guys sooner. You can see in the comments there's that Nico Deploy. So he's got this thing called the brokerage. And there's deals upon deals, right? So it's a very easy way to get started. Nico's quality is absolutely the best that I've ever seen in the industry. So that's a great place. If you're looking at getting started in terms of like, well, you need a property that's good, you should definitely go ahead and have a conversation with Nico. He's already got the properties, and the standard of what he's putting out there is really, really good. You will be able to get something. But it's not just Nico. You've got the coaches here. You've got like Dave, you've got Andrew, there's Daniel. There are attorneys that are part of this. So everything that you need, actually go into this network here and see, hey, how do I get this? How do I make use of all of the resources that are available here?
Awesome. Just to piggyback off what Jonathan just said, what Anzu and the team started developing are the different quadrants. So at Anzu, there's quadrant A. So these are youngsters, youths, don't have the affordability, but have a lot of time. There's quadrant B. These are they're kind of busy, have small cash. Quadrant C are those people that are full-time in property, and quadrant D are busy investors, but would have cash to invest. I think where it all begins is just understanding what quadrant you're in, because depending on what quadrant you're in, depends on what sort of deals you can go for, depends on what sort of events you should be attending, depends on how do you structure your property business. And there is an entrepreneurial journey, Andrew, you might want to talk about that, where if you are quadrant A, you're not going to go and talk to TUF or ABSA home loans, because there's no way they will give you a bond. But you can do things like installment sales, rent to rent. So it definitely starts off by understanding the quadrant you're not.
It's where you fit in. Just understanding that. But second thing is joining a network. Exactly what John said. Be part of a community, of a network. Property is not a one-man band game, and it's also very difficult. So the more people you surround with, and that's why John and Akashni and Dave host events in Cape Town. We host events in Joburg all around the country to give you that support. So step one, join either intermediate or professional membership. Number two, identify where you belong in the community. That's going to help you identify your path over the next 12 to 24 months. So cool. I think we've answered that question. Let's move on.
100%. So Eric's got a bit of a nice technical question. Townhouses versus houses, which is better to start with? I'm going to go curveball and say apartments.
Well, look, I think the thing is, so in terms of which is better to start with, you really need to look at what do you want to do? What are you geared up to do? How's your financial situation? What are the areas you're looking in? How are the metrics in those areas? So there isn't a blanket answer that I can give you to say which is better, right? You actually need to look at what is your situation? What is your strategy? What are the things that you're good at? What makes sense to you? What's the data you have access to? What are the numbers that you can run? So look at what is actually going to work for you, because the reality, let me speak to Cape Town as an example. All of it works. If you want to do Airbnb, if you want to do houses, townhouses, apartments, flipping, it all works, right? The whole thing is, how is your prep, your research, your position before you make any of those moves? So houses versus townhouses, they both rock, right? You just need to look at what is the ammo that you've got in terms of knowledge, in terms of your kind of financial position, in terms of what skills, research, analytics you've got at your fingertips. Because sometimes a house that is, on point A can be amazing. The townhouse across the road can be better, or literally behind that, the house behind that could actually be the best thing. So it's really about when you do that research, when you do that analysis, that's the main thing that you've got to look at.
Yeah, and I think also, when you look at houses versus townhouses, opportunity that you get in a house that you might not get in a townhouse. So you might buy a townhouse, it could be in a complex. It could be that the body corporate's very strict and you aren't allowed to do Airbnb, you can't do multi-let, you can't get students. But as a starting point, like you said, John, it could be a great opportunity to keep it simple. As long as your rent covers all your expenses, you're great. As soon as we go to houses, freestanding, probably older houses, which probably means more maintenance than a new townhouse. But in that property, there might be a garage that we can convert. There might be a flat on the property. So we might start to be able to apply, or you may start with a basic buy-to-let. But if the house has got a certain structure and a second dwelling, you might be able to get a bit more, or take that buy-to-let and turn it into multi into the future. So I think, like you said, John, there's no right or wrong, right? Risk appetite, affordability, could take all that into consideration, and that'll come out of your journey plan from identifying what quadrant you fall in. So yeah, I mean, Dave or Dan, I don't know if you have any.
Just before Dave, I think also due diligence. I think John touched upon it. Where you're buying in a body corporate, where you have to see all their financials. I think, Andrew, you spoke to a student not too long ago who thinks they did do the right amount of research, but they claim they only pay levies of what, 50 Rand or something?
60 Rand a month.
60 Rand a month, which is close to impossible, right?
I just don't know how.
Yeah, so just again, with every opportunity to make sure you run the numbers. If you are buying into body corporates, make sure you look at their financials and all the extra admin, but provided, like Jonathan and Andrew said, provided numbers make sense, then yeah.
I think for me, the only way you can go wrong here is if you're going to go into a market with an idea that you want to execute, and you're like, oh, I saw this thing on TV and I want to do it. That's when you're going to burn yourself over here. So don't go into a market with your preconceived notions of, okay, townhouses are better, houses are better, flats are better. Go into a market and figure out what does the market want. At the end of the day, this is like any other business, right? If I'm going to go out and I want to try sell something, if I don't understand who my clients are and I don't sell something that they actually want, then I'm going to be in a really rough spot. So start by understanding who the end users or the end buyer of the products, and who's going to be your tenant, who's going to be your buyer purchaser if you're buying and selling, and cater your projects towards them, because that's where it's going to go. Because if you're going to be where I am, you're going to try flip houses, you're going to have a lot harder of time than if you try and flip apartments. It's just how markets go. So understand the market. That's what's really important for me in this question.
Definitely. And Dave, before we answer any other questions, he's top us one already. This is a great conversation with Jonathan out there in Cape Town, full-time property investor, SAPN host, and a SAPN member. And I think, Dave, let's go into what events are happening this week and next week. And if you can think of any other questions, or you want to share any insight into investing, any mistakes you've made, please pop them into the comments box. We are in the middle of our roadshow. We've been to Bloemfontein, we've been to Durban, and we will be going to Cape Town. So, Dave, maybe give us some details this week. What's happening? Is Dave frozen? Cape Town internet.
Yes. We here.
Cape Town
I
internet.
feel like we're having some connectivity issues here.
How's it, Dave? For once, I think it's your internet.
Yeah. Don't read the comment section, Dave. Someone said you're using your parking lot's Wi-Fi.
I guarantee I am not, but it's good. We're sorted.
Okay, cool. Let's
Cool.
try again. Go for it.
I didn't hear what the question was. You had broken up for me.
Cool, no worries, man. So I was just talking about events for the week, and I know, Dave, on Wednesday morning, the 2nd of November, there's a breakfast in Pretoria for the first time.
Yeah.
I think ever. We are running a breakfast in Pretoria, Menlyn, Maine. Dave has posted a link to our website where you can book. Obviously, it's a coffee. It's a breakfast. So we have about 15, 20 members there. So if you do want to join, please click on that link and join myself and Christian and Daniel, and the team will be there just talking about property. Daniel's saying that Dave is using free KFC Wi-Fi. And then Thursday night, Dave, we've got the group coaching, eh? Who's all that for?
So anyone who's got some of our courses, so if you're on the fundamentals course, the flipping course, you get access to that. So that also means that professional members who've got fundamentals as part of their package, as part of their membership, also can join that legal coaching and legal support. And it's a really good opportunity to just like this, ask questions. You can get a little more technical because we'll have the attorneys and the accountants on, so they can answer some of the more complex questions. So definitely a good opportunity if you enjoy asking the questions to come join us for that one. And all the links are in the chat box.
Awesome. And then obviously, Dave, next Wednesday, we are running for, I think it's been a while since we've run one of our public events in Cape Town and Woodstock. I'll be there. Dan will be there. And all the partners, business partners, will be there talking about their different funds for property entrepreneurs, as well as ABSA and TUF. And we'll bring all the partners and new investors, as well as experienced investors. So it's a great platform to network, to speak to each other. I want to meet all of you Cape Townians, so make sure that you are there. Again, Dave has posted the link into the chat box. Awesome. So I think that's what's happening. It is 1:30. We've got 10 more minutes with John. I think there were a few more questions.
Yeah, 100%. So I think the quick question over here from Eric Boyser, which property management company are you using, especially for properties that are far from you? So John, I think you should take this, and then we'll talk about preferential for a sec.
Yeah, 100%. So we've got a really good partnership that we've been growing with Just Property. But the reality is that you can grow your partnership with any really savvy property management company, any estate agency. But I think the main thing that you need to do there is you need to make sure that you guys share a vision. You guys are really like working well together. You've got a good relationship. You've got good synergy. Our partnership with Just Property, that's very much been built over time, and it's been built over really good kind of interaction, really good kind of partnership together with them. But there's lots of options. Hey, I think Dave also mentioned there's preferential, which I know that they're probably going to chat about as well now. So there's lots of options. Don't restrict yourself to just one. Take a look at that pamphlet. I'm going to hand over to the Sapin team to talk about preferential.
Yeah, I think the great thing with that, John, is preferential will be there in Cape Town, by the way, talking about their tech platform and how it's helping landlords scale. And when preferential got going, it's almost like it was in between a investor completely self-managing and then completely going with a full-blown letting agent where you stand back. It almost fits in the middle. And yes, as it's growing, it's changing, it's evolving, it's scaling. But it's been built in such a way, John, that it takes the admin away, it takes the risk away. But it's suited for clients who still want to be involved in terms of check-ins and inspections and keeping your finger on the pulse. Like TUF always say, the lender, they want the jockey to be involved at some level. Same as preferential, they want the jockey to be involved at some level. But they deal with your deposits, the rent, they do the credit checks or the referencing on your behalf. And then, of course, they have preferential promise. So depending on what package you take, up to 4 months, they'll pay your rent. So if the tenant doesn't pay rent, they still pay you. So in the first or the fifth, in the second month, the third month. The great thing is, John, if there are any evictions, they'll cover the cost of the eviction. So they take on the risk for you. And it's a fraction of the price that you pay some of the managing agents. But like Cashy said, you've got to look at, are you investing in your own area? Are you going national? What does the strategy look like? And go to maybe 3 different agents. Speak to preferential, understand their business model. And that is why we have Sapin events, so you can get up and close with the team at preferential. And then go speak to 2 other maybe letting agents, and you choose the company that you feel fit with, that you feel comfortable with. That's my advice, eh? What do you guys think?
Well, definitely. Yeah. I think a big thing as well, you need to make sure you vet whatever partners you're going to use, understand how big the portfolio is, have that conversation, what their roles are, because a bad letting agent could just ruin your whole deal, right? Whereas a good letting agent takes you to the next level. So obviously vetting them is thoroughly important.
Yeah.
I have a horror story to share with you guys.
Let's hear it.
I got lots.
I'm working with a client at the moment who owns a lot of industrial property, and some very big industrial property here in Cape Town. And their lettings agents has completely destroyed the property and done a bad job. So their current tenants are starting to default and go into liquidation. So they're like, cool, let's get rid of our existing tenants. The estate agent was approached by SAB for a 10-year lease. And the estate agent rejected the offer without consulting the seller.
Sure.
Probably cost my colleague 20 million rand at this point.
Jeez.
So vet your lettings agents. Make sure they're professional lettings agents. Estate agents and lettings agents are 2 very different types of people, and treat them as such. Don't just go to the guy who sold you the house and ask them if they can manage it. It's a very different skill set. It's a very different business to run. And yeah, there's a lot of actors out there who don't do a great job. So spend your time vetting, asking. Eric, if I think you mentioned you're in Cape Town, so come down to the event, ask what people are using locally. I can give you some recommendations. But yeah, definitely spend some time actually working on understanding how they run their business. I remember when I started in property, I was reading one of the Rich Dad books, and they actually had a very good like step-by-step process of vetting a lettings agent. I still use it. Still
Yeah,
works.
definitely. Yeah, because you think about it, the type of person that sells properties, a personality type for someone that's a salesman selling houses, versus someone that's going to, manage a property. Its personality is different, and that's why the agents that do sales and lettings, not all of them, but a lot of them don't actually understand that, and that's why they get it wrong. Because you've got to you've got to have a very strong personality and a very detailed style to manage properties. So when you got 100, 200 units and you got tenants not paying, it's not an easy job, and we know that. But selling houses, sales, fund, it's a different type of person.
I was going to say, you should hear Simone's side of the story when Andrew and Simone are letting out, and Andrew has 0% collections versus Simone.
Simone's got 100%. See, but I can find the houses and do the deals, but just don't ask me to manage.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's a whole nother conversation. So I think that does answer that question. Thanks for the stories. There's loads of stories here. Cool. Next question. Is Dave on mute?
Oh yeah, Dave, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I have allergies today. What's the difference between commercial and residential property, and how has it changed with working from home? I feel like that's a me question.
Go for it. It's all yours.
So commercial, residential are two very different industries, both from a landlord and from a tenant perspective. So spend a lot of time understanding that. You tend to work with completely different people under completely different terms. So don't just think that because you know how buy-to-let works that you understand how commercial office space rentals work. Spend a little time upskilling yourself. It's not hugely different, but there's some very important technical differences that you need to bear in mind. How's it changed since working from home? I think it varies. It depends on your perspective. For me, I had a lot of service office spaces pre-COVID. A lot of those have taken a very significant knock from the freelancers. So what we saw before COVID is a lot of freelancers wanted to go to co-working spaces and do hot desking and that sort of thing. So that freelancer side has definitely taken a dive. But to counter it, businesses are a lot more conscious of that flexibility now. So we've seen a lot of businesses move from very big office spaces down to smaller office spaces, and they'd rather have 4 or 5 satellite offices than one big office that everyone has to go into. So it's sort of stayed about the same, but your primary client profiles have changed quite a lot. My suggestion: go and visit a few of the commercial office spaces near you, see what's happening. John, you've got the commercial office space in Stellenbosch, or is it Paul? How's that one going for you?
That it's in Paul, and that is actually very, very good. We found that the numbers are really strong for it. Paul is actually a very cool region as well. So that for us is a very, very good, well-performing property, that commercial one. I think that there was a little bit of a, in terms of like work from home, I think that there was kind of maybe, some disruption in that sector and in Paul as well. But I think for us, we chose commercial property that was very, very kind of like easy to fill, very kind of low key. It's just small, wide open office space. Anyone can put, kind of their thing in there, whether it's doctor, dentist, financial advisor, whatever. So it's a nice flexible bit of space in a nice location. So that allows it to be kind of just, people are looking for it. It's full. It's got good numbers. So what we chose was very, very kind of like de-risked, if I can put it that way.
100%. Cool. I think one of the last questions we have time for, Mo is asking, is it better to buy in a trust or in a company for financial optimization to be able to access more finance in the future? Mo, please seek professional advice. None of us are professionals. We are not skilled or talented enough to answer that question. So please make sure that you speak to some professional like Shirley Boy Matiba at Instigen. I'll share a link for you in a second. So definitely go through that. because it does come down to your personal situation and your goals and your lifestyle and what you're planning for your life. So there's a lot of variation in that. Generally, the advice is, and the most typical advice is to have a trust that owns a company, and the company owns all your assets. That's usually that's usually the go-to answer, but there is nuances to that answer, and there's definitely opportunity for you to look into that. Hey, look who's using KFC Wi-Fi now. John, I know we spend a lot of time. Oh, yeah, that's gone. John, I know we spent a lot of time talking about this at the beginning of your coaching. What's your perspective on how for them to go forward? Well, I'll quickly grab the link for Intergen.
Yeah, so for me, I think that what you need to do, literally, Dave, as you were saying, you've got to look at what is your position, what's your personal situation, and what's going to work for you. Because these different vehicles, whether you're looking at different kinds of trusts, different kinds of companies, personal capacity, these all have got different pros and cons, and they're really, really personal to your situation, right? So with us, we just use a company, we don't use any trusts. And that matches what we want to do from a business growth perspective, from a tax perspective, income, etc. So that works for us. But there are people who genuinely, a trust will work better for them based on what they want to do. So exactly as Dave was saying over here, you need to talk to somebody that can sit with you and map out what's your financial position, what's your strategy, what do you want to do, right? Just in simple terms, what do you actually want to do with this thing? Do you want money for your kids' university fund, or do you want money to grow a business? Do you want money so that you can leave your corporate job, or whatever it is, right? But those different motivations, the things you want to do, is actually what's going to determine what structure you're going to use. So first, go ahead, have a chat with Chili over at Intergen, and be clear on what you want to do, because that's going to influence what structures you got to use when doing your investing and business.
Awesome. Cool. Andrew and Daniel are having technical difficulties.
Oh, they've been cut now.
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up. John, thanks so much for your time. Always appreciate having you on over here. For those of you guys, just as a gentle reminder, so Pretoria events on Wednesday morning, there's breakfast, coaching and legal support on Thursday night, so that's November 3rd, and then November 9th, John and myself and Andrew and Kashni and all of us are going to be in Cape Town here in Woodstock, and we're going to have a nice little event, get together. So for those of you who are in Cape Town, definitely pull through. It's one of our first networking events in Cape Town since COVID. I think it might be the second one, so really, really glad to be getting into it, and it's going to be a really fun evening.
Fantastic. Dave,
John,
I just want to say thank you so much. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on here, for giving me the opportunity just to interact with some of the questions over here. It's been really cool to see you guys. And also to everyone here on the call, your engagement is fantastic. And it's great that you're looking at whether it's growing your wealth for yourself, whether it's growing your wealth for your children, whether it's to change your lifestyle, whatever it is, but taking control of your life, whether it's through property investing, or if you want to joint venture with someone in the in the network, or if you want to get coaching, education, whatever it is. But go ahead and take action over what you want to do. Take control. When you're in control, then you're able to really have a fantastic life. And that's fantastic from a financial perspective, but also just your own happiness. This is for you. This is for you guys to live your best life. But anyway, that's it from me, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on board today.
Awesome, John. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to seeing you at the events during the week. And remember, Andrew and I go live on Coffee Chat every Monday at 1 o'clock. So if we missed your questions today, you can come ask it next week, or at support webinar on Thursday. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.